Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Today I have a new guest. In fact, he and I go back a couple of years now, and we have done some wonderful things together. Rather, he did all the stuff, and I'm basically a channel to market all his brilliance. Let's welcome Sangle Bala 𝗤𝗏𝗧𝗏, also known as Kumar Bala. Kumarji, Namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel. How are you?
Namaskar, Vanakkam, and since it is the festive seasons with Durga Puja, Navratri, and Saraswati Puja, wishing all the Sanatanis out there a prosperous festive seasons. I'm good, and how are you, Sriji?
I'm doing well, Kumar, and viewers, you all know that we have been promoting the Sangle. And guess whose idea was it to capture it in this form? Send to me a sample and then wowed me, and then we sat together, we planned this thing out, and now we are selling like hotcakes in India also. Sendilji, I bow my head to you. You were the one to come up with this idea. You basically said, look, I'd like to present you with this. You took the initial attempt to try and reach out to me, and I'm sure you did reach out to other channels also. We were lucky that we saw the value in this, and this is the first thing that Kumarji conceived along with his team. He is based out of United Kingdom and a very successful entrepreneur himself. Talk to us a little bit about Project Sangle. How did it occur to you? And then from there we will go on, because there are many other projects that we are doing together. We're going to be talking about all that today with you. Viewers, first, please like this video. I want many more such projects and ideas to come out of Kumarji's den, and we will be happy to spread it across the world. Over to you, Kumar.
Thanks, Sriji, for the kind words. So like most Indians living in the West, we're all sort of similar, right? Like we're all trained as engineers, and we hit sort of around 40, and then we start, looking into our own sort of identity and who we are, and we start, researching and reading more about our own identity and India's history, Bharat's history, and beyond, right? So there's been a lot of great sort of churn of events in the last 10 years or so. You have great historians like Dr. Meenakshi Jain and Sanjeev Sanyal and 𝗏𝗏𝗏 Sampath and a lot of others writing a lot about Indian history, Bharat's history, and its place in the world, right? And also you had people like yourself and 𝗤𝙤𝙤𝗏 𝗏𝗏𝗏 coming from sort of a tech entrepreneurial background, but soon realized that we need to take art and humanity seriously. Because if we focus primarily as a culture that focuses heavily on STEM, we tend to ignore arts and humanities, or in the past, we used to ignore arts and humanities because it wasn't a great career choices, right? So what then happened was it became an area where the anti-Bharat, or those who, for lack of a better word, self-hating Indians took over. So we ended up with this hodgepodge of history where nothing great is said about Bharat, or nothing true is said about Bharat, right? So, and over the last 5 years or so, it has been sort of a painful revelation that we need to do something about it, right? So people like you, me, who are in a position to say something about it and do something about it, or to do something about it, right? So I'm still quite impressed by the work that people like you, Pandit Sharma-ji, and Rajiv Malhotra-ji does, like staying in the front and fighting for what is true, right? At the end of the day, maybe that is why our ancestors thought 𝗤𝙤𝙤𝗏 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 was a good motto for the nation, right? So to fight for truth is what makes us all, dharmic, right? So even the former British Prime Minister of United Kingdom, Rishi Sunak, when asked what made you become the Prime Minister of the country in such a turbulent time, right? Like right after Boris Johnson quit, after all the scandal and what happened with Liz Truss, he said, the reason I became the British Prime Minister is because that is based on my dharmic nature. Dharma teaches me not to shy away from my duties, right? So I think that is what binds us all. I mean, Germans have this term that 𝗒𝙘𝙤, which says we are all product of the time. And I think the times come for the revival of our great civilization, right? And then you have these great minds like Sai Deepak and Sanjeev Sanyal and 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Sampath and lots of others writing about it. So we need to do something. So since my background is in engineering, like most Indians out there, I did my undergrad in India, and then came to do my postgrad in England, and then went and worked for a few years for a startup based in Germany, and then moved back, set up my own business, and been running that for the last 15 years or so. So I have a lot of experience building products and designing and thinking about how to design and take things to the market, right? So that is what I specialize in, primarily consumer tech. But one thing I realized is that when you go to, like, as parents, you would all have seen, when you go to shops and try to buy gifts for your kids, there's very little that is dharmic. There's very little that ties us to our roots. And that was always a pain point for me, because I had to find various ways to find toys that link us to our civilization, right? Like, as a child, if you don't play with toys that are representative of you and your civilization, it is highly difficult when you grow older to connect to it, right? So I thought we need to have more things in our lives that root us to our civilization, right? So, and right at that time came the news about Sangle and Prime Minister Modi installing it in the parliament, right, in the new parliament, and that was a sort of a eye-opening moment for it. Like, how do we then take this, historical moment, a humongous piece of history has been sort of kept in somewhere hidden, right? Like, it was, of course, showed in the Allahabad Museum, but it wasn't prominent. And I think we need to do something about it. We need to make it prominent that this Sangle, which is a part of our ancient civilization that ties us all together, from Rajaraja Chola to Rajendra Chola to Chhatrapati Shivaji to Sambhaji Maharaj to then Rajaji handing it to Nehru, and then, of course, Prime Minister Modi installing it in the parliament, right? So there's a lot that ties us together. There is 5,000 years of continuous history as a civilizational state that we somehow ignored or forgotten, right? So the time's come to build these bonds, to make this thread visible, the sacred thread that links us from the past to the present, right? And why is it important now? I think it is important now because if we are going to be if you are going to take prominent role in the world politics, if you are going to play a key role in bringing about peace and in bringing about prosperity to the rest of the world, as our External Affairs Minister 𝗤𝙗𝙗 said, the last 50-60 years has been about European and Western world becoming more and more prosperous and healthier and happier, right? So the next 50 to 100 years ought to be about how do we bring the next 6 or 7 billion people out of poverty and make their life prosperous, and how do we make it better for the next 7 billion, right? And I think the answer lies in the great civilization of Bharat. We have shown in the past great leadership. There's been a lot of books written about it, how India influenced both in the East through soft power, through Sanskrit, and through Hinduism and Buddhism in Southeast Asia and East Asia and in China, and how we had influence in the West through our interactions with the Greeks and the Romans and the Persians, right? So India, for a long time, played a pivotal role, a central role in geopolitics, and we are going to become more and more prominent, and we are going to take leadership in a lot of these global problems, right? And to do that, we need to raise a new generation that understands its place in the world and understands its historical links and understands the sort of heroes from the past, so that they can derive that energy from there, right? They can derive that strength from that. To do that, we need to narrate history. One way to narrate history is to look at artifacts that we have that links us to our past, right? And the way to do that would be to introduce these to kids at a younger age, for them to physically sort of hold these in their hands and to see them and to visualize what it is to be a descendant of this great civilization, right? And if we can only do that if we design more and more products that are dharmic in nature and feels dharmic and has the soul of dharmic civilization in it, right? So that is what's like prompting me to think along those lines. what can we build that connects us to our past, right? So yeah, that is how it's all started, Sree.
Thank you so much. And viewers, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be shipping a small 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches. This is 2 in a page, but you will see this paper will be shipped along with the Sengol that you are going to receive. On one side, there is a disclaimer. On the other side, it tells you a brief history of what Sengol is all about. And this is something that, like you said, Kumarji, we are trying to educate our youth. Listen, there was a great tradition. That tradition continues now, because in the new Parliament building, if you go there, you will be able to see the Sengol occupy the pride of its place. So this is the Sengol project. And like I said, Kumarji, thanks to you, we are doing a great, we are experiencing a great sale of this one, doing very well. We hope to sell many more. And I have my hope that one day when Rahul Gandhi or any of these congresses start uttering nonsense about it, that 100 of us all carry this Sengol and say, the Raj Dharma, you are not following the Raj Dharma, because even the opposition leader, they have some karma. They have some responsibilities. They need to do that, and you're not doing it. So this is my hope. I'm sure someday it will be realized. And now let's talk about the latest one, which is the one that you and I are wearing as brooches, Marigold, Mission Marigold. And viewers, I've been telling about this. The Mission Marigold is available in packets of 5 in the United States, but it also originated in United Kingdom. Kumarji, over to you. Go ahead and tell us how this started, the reason for it this year, and your vision for something similar going forward. Over to you.
Thanks, Sree. So the Mission Marigold is something that's been in play for almost 3-4 years now. It all started off with, as for most of us who live in Europe, every time you sort of go to these historical places, you often come across memorials for Indian soldiers who fought in the First and the Second World War. Right? So most of us know that a lot of Indian soldiers played significant roles in the Western frontier during the First World War and in the North African and Mesopotamian region as well. And of course, in the Second World War, again in North Africa, Egypt, and a few other places where Indians played a significant role, even in Italy and even in Normandy landing. But for some reason or the other, there hasn't been a lot of public interest on it, and not a lot has been done in terms of raising awareness about it. And I've always sort of felt that something should be done about it, right? So 3 or 4 years ago, my wife used to be a member of the parish council in the village we live in Buckinghamshire. And she suggested, why don't you come to the parish council and suggest this for the next Remembrance Day? Remembrance Day is celebrated in England exactly on the Armistice Day, which is the 11th of November at 11 a.m. when the First World War is supposed to have ended by signing of the armistice, and they celebrate that as a Remembrance Day. And so our initial thought was, why don't we use that as a means to sort of raise awareness about the contribution of Indian men and women in the first 2 world wars, right? And that's how it all started. So we started researching more about it. And when we reached out to the parish council, they were delighted, particularly one of the councillors, Alan Turner, who is a World War buff. So he travels around the world studying about various battles and how these battles took place, and he's a historian. And he was he told us that we've been waiting for almost 20 years for somebody to take on this particular key part of history, where particularly Indian soldiers and to a large extent soldiers from the other Commonwealth as well, who played a huge role in the 2 world wars, right? So wherever you go across Europe, to Italy, to 𝗏𝗡𝗏 in France, or Ypres in Belgium, or Monte Cassino in Italy, lots of places in Germany, you would see that Indians played a huge role, right? And there's a lot of memorials, and more often than not, the locals in these places, like in the Benin Gates in Belgium, and of course the same in France as well, the locals go and lay a wreath in memory of all the Indian soldiers who fought for their freedom, right? So here was a key piece of history where roughly 1.3 million Indians fought in the First World War, and about 2.5 million fought in the Second World War, and about 70,000 died in the First, and about 100,000 died in the Second World War. They showed extreme courage, bravery, and a lot has been written about their bravery and courage in the Western world. And what is happening at the moment is that all of those history, we could lose it, mainly because the generation that kept all that history and were interested in this history, when they pass on, and there is no one to pass this on, right? So I believe the times come for Indian diaspora living in the West, in the US, in Europe, and in the United Kingdom, to take on that legacy, right? Take on the legacy of understanding what Indian soldiers did in the First and the Second World War, and what were their contributions, and how did their bravery result in great victories in the two wars, right? So that's how it all started. And right at the time, the Indian government decided to use Marigold as the remembrance flower for the Indian soldiers, the fallen Indian soldiers. So, and that fell in nicely. So we then decided that along with our parish council and town council, that we will lay a wreath in memory of Indian soldiers and Hindu soldiers, Indian soldiers in general and Hindu soldiers in particular, a wreath made of marigold during the Remembrance Day. So, and this has been, we started 3-4 years ago, and we're going to do that again this year for the Remembrance Day. And what we've learned from our experience is that every time we go to any town council or parish council and ask about it, they welcome us with both hands. Like this has happened across the home counties, Berkshire, Buckinghamshire, Oxfordshire. Everywhere we went and asked them, they were delighted. They were actually looking forward, and they were hoping that the community would come and ask them. So I would assume it would be the same in the United States as well. And in Europe, where the Indian diaspora is not that big, we can still do the same. We can still go to these pivotal places, particularly in Belgium, where I know that a Belgian mayor goes and lays a wreath on the memorial for the Indian soldiers every year. And he's done that for decades now. And I think it's time for the Indian diaspora in these countries to take that legacy and move it forward, right? And why is it important? Why is it important that we talk about the valor and courage of Indians at this point in time, right? And to me, that boils down to one of the key slokas in Gita that had a huge influence on me, which talks about the characteristics of a Kshatriya, right? It says, Sauryam Tejo Dhritir Daksham Yuddhe Chapya Palayanam Dhanam Ishvara Bhavascha Shatram Karma Swabhavacham. So it basically lists all the characteristics of what a Kshatriya ought to be. And when you look at the characteristics of it, it talks about things like valor and strength and not fleeing from combat and being generous and being charitable, or all those things listed as the characteristic of a leader or of a Kshatriya, right, of a warrior class. And this then brings us to the topic of, for the last 50 to 70 years, Indians have been highly successful in the West, and be it United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and across Europe as well. But one thing where we seem to have sort of dropped the ball is emphasizing the need for the Kshatriya tendencies in us, right? So if you focus only on the intellectual prowess and not focus on the martial prowess, you will never be able to defend a civilization, right? That's why Hinduism has always sort of looked at it as this two arms of running a stable, successful civilization is the mind that's required for strategic thinking, long-term strategic thinking, and the mind that is required for tactical short-term response, right? So the way that I see this is that by focusing on the intellectual side of things, we've sort of not focused too much on the tactical and the leadership, the Kshatriya attributes of in us, right? So how do we then promote it? So my view is that the next generation ought to take pride in their Kshatriya ancestors, right? People who fought for our freedom. It is often said that, I think it's said more in the United States than in the United Kingdom, but there is always the thing that we fought for freeing the world. But I think if you look at the real sort of what happened in the First and Second World War, I would argue that people from Bharat not only fought for freedom in Europe and to stop the sort of mindless violence that's happening in Europe, but also went back and freed the rest of the billion, right? The rest of the world. You can directly find evidence for these soldiers going back to Bharat and fighting for Bharat's own independence, either through the Indian National Army or through the naval uprising in 1946. But you can also see how they had an impact in freeing Indonesia and in Egypt. We played a significant role in also freeing the rest of the world, right? So if there is one country that can proudly say that we really did fight for the freedom of every human being, that should be Bharat, because we just didn't fight for the freedom of Europe alone, but we also fought for freedom of the rest of the world, right? So then the times come now, as you can all imagine, we are living in turbulent times with serious global conflicts, and the world is now looking to Bharat for its leadership. And I believe that we should focus on our ability in both senses, like our ability to be diplomats and at the same time our ability to be leaders in combat as well, right? So to tell the brave stories of World War I and World War II is really critical. Our Indians played a huge role in both these world wars, right? Not just on the field, but also in the planning, in the infrastructure, in transportation. We did a lot for the two world wars, and also in terms of funding it, right? If you look at the World War I funding that Britain had, and the World War II funding, a large component of it came from India, right? So we did play a significant role in these two events, and it's only fair that we are recognized for our role in these two pivotal points in history, right? And it is really important that we learn this part of history, our impact in the world, so that'll serve as a guidance for us going forward, right? Like when I was at school, World War I and World War II was taught as something that happened out in Europe and had very little impact on us. But the truth is anything but that, right? Like if you look at it, when 1.3 million Indians fought in First World War, that was the largest volunteer army in human history at that point. And when 2.5 million Indians then fought in Second World War, that was again breaking the record in the West to be the largest volunteer army that has ever fought in any war, right? And if you look at pivotal events in human history, like Battle of Haifa, it's the last successful cavalry ride in human history. And this was a daring effort by the Jodhpur, Mysore, and Bhagyanagar, Hyderabad Lancers against the Ottoman forces that would break the Ottoman hold on the port city of Haifa, liberating it from the Central Powers, and turning the war towards the Allied forces, which would then hasten the signing of the Armistice Treaty in 1918, right? So we played a significant role in bringing about peace in the end of First World War. And interestingly, Israel every year remembers that, along with the key actors of that, key players in that conflict, particularly 𝗤𝗏 𝗏𝗏. He's celebrated as the hero of Haifa, right? So all of these are there for us to sort of teach our children and for us to enlighten ourselves and take lessons from it, right? So if we are going to be leaders of the world, if we are going to sit and solve problems in the global stage, we need to know what our ancestors did in the past and take lessons from it, right? Like, for example, there have been a lot of people might not know there were two Indians in Churchill's war cabinet. One of them is 𝗤𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏𝗏, who played a significant role not only in the planning of the war and at the end of the war became involved in the formation of the United Nations and what happened after that, right? So we played significant role in the Second World War as well. And of course, Brigadier Prabhakar Kumaramangalam, again another Tamil, played a huge role in the battlefield as well, right? And he later on became the chief of staff in the Indian Army. So as you can imagine, there is a lot in our history that need to be taught and not taught and need to be remembered, right? And the way to do that would be to get involved in Remembrance Day or Armistice Day celebrations across the globe. We've started off in England and in the United Kingdom. Hopefully, this will sort of take on and more countries will get involved, and diaspora and rest of the world would then go and reach out to the schools and their councils and their local governments to see how they can be part of the Remembrance Day celebration, right? So we need to now take the legacy on. It is not enough to blame the British or the Americans or the French and the Germans or the Belgians to not remember the contributions we made. To be fair, they do remember. If you go to most of their war memorials and archives, they do keep clear records of Indian contribution in both the world wars. So it's now the onus is on us and the diaspora and Indians back home to take the legacy on. And one way to do that would be to wear Marigold on this day, right? Armistice Day, which is globally significant, and it's not tied to any specific religion or any specific region or ethnic group. It's the remembering of signing peace at the end of the Great War, right? So it's a great day for us to participate. And the current government's effort to make Marigold the remembrance flower is a brilliant idea, and we should take up and do what we can.
Thank you so much, Kumar. And viewers, it's available for sale in the United States in packs of 5. You can go to 𝗏𝗏𝗏.com. We will pin the link for where you can buy it at the top of the comments. Do click on that and you can get it. And it's also available in a limited way in United Kingdom. And basically there, Kumarji, just tell us in a minute how you are making it available to those, because it's not in a storefront, but I'll let you finish this line.
Oh, yes. In United Kingdom, what we did was we just basically asked who would like to sort of be part of this Marigold mission. A lot of people volunteered. So we figured out how many do we need, and we pooled our resources, and we then sent it out to people who are interested in promoting it, along with any information they need about the 2 world wars and how to go and talk to schools about it. Because in every year, during Remembrance Day in schools across United Kingdom, they invite people to come and talk about the 2 world wars, right? And if you go and ask schools, can we come and talk about the Indian contribution in the First and the Second World War, they'll welcome you with both arms. Like, that has been our experience. In fact, we found it difficult to find volunteers to go and talk about it, because it sort of happens around the same time in the year, right? So I would like more to go and do that. And if you would need sort of information, and if you would like Marigold pins, reach out to us through PGurus, and we'll try and get that out to you. This year, we've been doing it free of cost. For us, it is about getting the message out and getting more people remembering the Indian soldiers who fought for liberating first Europe and then going home to liberate the rest of the world, right? So it is more important that this message gets spread as far and as wide as possible.
Thank you so much, Kumar. And viewers, we'll be continuing our series of stories on the contribution of Indians in World Wars I and II. I have a couple of hangouts planned with Kumar and also with General Ravi Shankar. And I'll try and get some more people from the armed forces so that we can all discuss about the contribution of Indians in the 2 world wars. Thank you so much, Kumar. We'll be back again. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Dhanyavad.